Good evening. I hope you're all well. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ben Williams and I'm the new course manager at Royal Cinque Golf Club. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you sort of an introduction to me as a person and as a course manager, and then keep you up to date on what's been going on at the club over the winter and then what we've got planned in the upcoming months. What am I going to cover in this presentation for you? So a little bit about my life, my sort of upbringing, where I come from, and then I'm going to cover sort of your course, so the current course conditions, what we've been doing in the past to achieve the course conditions we got today, and then I'm going to sort of give you a breakdown of what winter projects we've done so far and the upcoming work we've got going on the course, and then I'm going to give you a rundown on our greenkeeping team, and then I'm going to present to you our vision for the golf course going forwards. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm originally from a little mining village in North Wales called Llanfechan. So for any of you that have been to North Wales, the two major towns either side of it are Llandudno and Bangor. So this is actually a photo of my granddad on the left, and that's my dad on the right hand side, and I'm on the left hand side as you look at the photo, and that's my twin brother on the right hand side, Jack, who's 6 minutes older than me. So I've come from a golfing background. So my granddad on the left hand side, he built the golf course in our small little village back in 1970, and then my dad on the right hand side is a golf professional. So I really am from golfing stock in that sense. And for any of you who may have seen me out on the golf course in previous years at Cinque, may have seen me in quite short shorts. So I think from this photo it's obvious where that trait comes from. So I'll move a little bit about my career to date. So I started my greenkeeping career sort of at my local golf club in Llandudno. So that golf club's called North Wales Golf Club. So I originally took on the role as a bunker raker. So I spent the best part of 3 years at North Wales. So my job originally was raking the bunkers on a Wednesday before the ladies competition and a Saturday before the men's medal competitions. So I did that for 6 months, and then I was offered a greenkeeping apprenticeship after that, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But I always knew that I didn't want to stay in North Wales for my whole life. So my next career move after that was to the United States. So I embarked on an internship where I worked at an ultra-exclusive members club in Ohio called Double Eagle. So we only had roughly 50 members there, and it was top-end golf, but you didn't see many people out on the golf course. So after my 6-month internship there, I moved through the transition zone into South Carolina to the Sea Pines Resort on Hilton Head Island. So this gave me an opportunity to work on warm season grasses, so the likes of couch and zoysia grass that you see on the PJ Tour, and experience sort of different greenkeeping management practices and styles. So once my time was up in the States and my internship visa had finished, I moved back to the UK for 6 months. So I moved to the 2010 course at the Celtic Manor, and I was there as part of the greenkeeping team for the 2014 Wales Open. So it's the last time officially they had the Wales Open on the European Tour. So after that, I had a burning desire to go and spend some time in Australia. So I was lucky enough to secure a position at the New South Wales Golf Club in Sydney. So it's as close as you can get really to a link style golf course in the Southern Hemisphere. So they have revetted bunkers there, cut tight into the greens, and it's an exceptional golf course in the World Top 100. So when I moved back to the UK after that, I decided I wanted to further my education. So I embarked on a foundation degree through Myerscough College whilst I was working at another local golf course back home in Llandudno. So I spent 2.5 years there. So the first 2 years of my foundation degree I completed at Myerscough Golf Club, And once I was there, I can only describe it as itchy feet to see a bit more again, experience a bit more. So I saw the job advertised at Royal Cinque Ports, and I thought, that looks like an unbelievable golf course. I'll see if I can get a job there. So I was lucky enough that I secured the assistant greenkeeper position back in 2017 at the club, and things sort of spiralled quickly from there. So I was made up to the first assistant greenkeeper at the club, and then following that I was made up to deputy course manager, and then just after Christmas, I went through the interview process and I was successful in securing the course manager's role. So it's been a real sort of whirlwind sort of 4.5 years at the club, but one I'm immensely proud of, and I'm also excited about the future as the course manager. So I'll go on to talk a little bit now about the current course condition and how we've achieved these conditions over the last 4.5 years of me being at the club, and obviously the last 9 years of James Bledge managing the course to an exceptionally high level. And I also want to take this opportunity now just to thank James for the knowledge and advice he's sort of given me over the last 4.5 years at the club. He's been a first-class mentor, and I certainly wouldn't be in the position I am now without him today. So he's been brilliant with me. So I'll go on and talk a little bit about the greens now. So I think it's fair to say that our greens are sort of a patchwork quilt. So they're a mixture of different grasses. So the 5 different grasses we've got in the greens are fescue, bentgrass, poa annua, ryegrass and Yorkshire fog. So of the 5 grasses, the 2 most desirable grasses in there for putting surfaces are fescue and bentgrass. So they're a finer leaf tip, so that places less friction on the golf ball when it's rolling across the surface. So essentially they're the 2 main grasses we're trying to promote on the golf course. So how do we achieve good greens? Well, producing firm, fast surfaces requires minimal organic matter, or thatch as some of you may know it as. So organic matter's it's a necessary evil. You have to have organic matter in your surface so it'll accept the ball coming in from height, but also excessive organic matter creates spongy, soft playing surfaces. So I'll take this opportunity to introduce a prop. So if you can imagine organic matter on a turf surface as a sponge in your kitchen, the green is the turf, and the yellow is the soil profile underneath. So if you have excessive organic matter in your pore space in your sponge or your soil profile, it blocks the macropore space in there. So basically it doesn't allow water to flow down through the turf surface, it doesn't allow oxygen to move freely, and it doesn't allow nutrients to move freely. So if you have too much organic matter, it's detrimental to plant health on the top. So I can't stress enough how if your soils are unhealthy, your turf will be unhealthy. So as a club for the last decade, we've been promoting healthy soils for healthy turf. So the photo you see in front of you is a core I've taken from the 18th green. So we have organic matter testing done every year, and we get our results back, and then we can chart if our maintenance practices are achieving a reduction in organic matter percentages. So we get 4 readings. So in the photo you can see I've got a tape measure down the right hand side of the course. So we measure our organic matter in the top 20 mil of the profile. Then we measure it between the 20 to 40 mil, 40 to 60 and 60 to 80 mil. So for the first time last year, we achieved target rates of between 4 to 6% in the top 20 mil of the soil profile, which is really pleasing. So when we test for organic matter, we take samples from the 6th, 15th and 18th greens, just so we can get a fair representation of the greens out on the golf course. So it was really pleasing that we achieved those results, but we can't rest on our laurels in that sense. We've got to keep top dressing with sand dilutes organic matter in the profile. The results do indicate that we're still above target percentages in the 20 to 40, 40 to 60 and 60 to 80 mil sections in the profile. So that's an area that we're going to look to target in the future. So if I move on to our green surrounds now, these areas are largely dominated by fescue and bentgrass, which is really pleasing from a links perspective, as they're the grasses we're trying to promote to produce the firm, fast running game that we all love. And they're maintained at a summer height of cut of 6.5 mil, which is relatively tight, so it promotes putting from off the green if you're no good at chipping. So our tees are predominantly fescue as well, which is in keeping, like I say, with the links style. And if you can just see, so this is a photo from the sea wall on the 9th, and last year we sort of reverted to cutting in a block formation. So as you can see, looking down the left hand side of the tee, all the grass is lying away from you, and as you look down the right hand side, all the grass is lying towards you. So we felt this was slightly more in keeping with a links feel than the sort of artificial look of stripes in your tees. So our fairways, so they're maintained at a cutting height of 10 mil, which is quite tight, but we feel that this is sort of necessary for a links golf course where you don't want lush sort of teed up lies at all. You want it to feel quite linksy and to feel as if you need to strike down on the turf. So the fairways are predominantly fescue. So back in 2017, the club invested heavily in a rescue graminicide project. So basically, rescue is a chemical that can control the spread of ryegrass. So you spray all your fairways and it selectively kills the ryegrass in them and leaves fescue and bentgrass behind. So the club had not a large percentage, but there was a percentage of ryegrass in the fairways, so we embarked on a complete wall-to-wall overseed of the fairways following this rescue application, and I'm glad to say that it absolutely worked a treat, and I think the fairways are as good as they ever have been now at the club. So we're lucky that we have an artisan section that undertakes divoting duties weekly on a Sunday morning. So with the level of play that we experience at the club, if we didn't have the artisan section, it'd be a real battle for the sort of greenkeeping team to keep on top of the divoting, and it's necessary to maintain good grass coverage throughout the year. So one of the club's biggest outlays in terms of products to maintain the golf course is a product called wetting agent. So wetting agent helps retain moisture in the soil profile, so which is absolutely essential in this corner of Kent where we have sort of minimal rainfall between May and the back end of October. So as a result, we need something in the soil to hold on to as much moisture as we can to maintain plant health. So we apply monthly applications of wetting agent between March and October, and this ensures that during drought periods where there's little rainfall, we're able to maintain coverage and maintain good quality, healthy playing surfaces for all your enjoyment year round. So the semi-rough. So the semi-rough is a real sort of improvement of the golf course in the last 5 years. So that's down to the selection of grasses that we overseed into the semi-rough. So we use a combination of fescue and dwarf ryegrass. So where dwarf ryegrass is different to sort of generic ryegrasses that you'd sow into your garden or you'd find in your sort of B&Q, your sort of homeware shop, dwarf ryegrass is genetically modified to produce quite an aggressive growing grass that's also has a very fine leaf tip, so it resembles fescue out on the golf course to the untrained eye, which is perfect on a links golf course. So some areas are still dominated by Poa annua, which is quite a shallow rooting grass, but we're working hard to increase the percentages of fescue and dwarf ryegrass year on year during the autumn overseeding period. So our native roughs. So this is one of the golf course's sort of main protections in the summer to low scoring is our rough. But we work hard to make sure that it's manageable and that we're sort of ensuring playability throughout the year. So how do we do this? Well, we do this in a number of ways. So we're lucky that the club recently bought us a new Wiedemann Super 500 cut and collect flail mower. So this basically is a big hopper on the back of the tractor that chops the rough down, but as it chops it down, it collects all the clippings. If you return the clippings into the soil, so the dead sort of decaying matter, that can release nitrogen, and that in turn produces lush growth and thickens the sward or the stand of grass, which we're trying to avoid. So we thin the rough by cutting and collecting, and then we also burn areas where we can't get in with the machine. So it's a real sort of combination of sort of burning, cutting and collecting, and then, like I mentioned in the fairway slide, we use graminicide applications as well to remove any sort of unwanted thicker grasses from the sward. So there's definitely been a noticeable improvement in playability over the last 5 years, but we've still got some way to go. So there's still some lush pockets that exist on the golf course, but the combination of those three sort of management practices should see us reduce these lush pockets in the years to come. So in my opinion, the biggest improvement on the golf course in the last 5 years are the flow areas and pathways between greens, tees and fairways. So these areas have seen a real improvement since the club invested in our new Toro irrigation system in 2019. So it allows us to target water into these areas in a way that we just really weren't able to before because the technology wasn't there in the old irrigation system. So it's also come through a combination of selecting the right grass species again. So these areas are oversown with fescue and then the dwarf ryegrass, just so they've got a good some good wear tolerance characteristics, because obviously these areas receive the most foot traffic on the golf course as they're pinch points between the tees and the greens, should I say. So they're maintained at a summer height of cut of 10 mil, which is the same as the fairways, so we feel like it really enhances the flow of the golf course. So the idea behind it is if you're straight enough off the tee, you shouldn't have to walk through any bumpy, uneven areas on the golf course at all. So what have we been doing this winter, and what have we got coming up this year? Sorry, I've got a bit of a dry mouth there. So our major project this winter has been the putting green reconstruction. So historically, the club has always suffered with the existing putting green holding water, and that's as a consequence of the soil profile underneath and the sort of materials underneath that the existing putting green was constructed from. It wasn't free draining, which meant for large portions of the winter we had water sitting at the surface, and this was detrimental to plant health, and come the spring and summertime we were struggling for good quality coverage. So the club acted upon this and asked Martin Ebert to design a new putting green that would alleviate the problem of sort of drainage. And so what you can see in front of you now is a sort of a plan of what Martin designed, and you can see the different contour lines, and the numbers represent the heights and the falls in the putting green. So if I click through to the next photo, this is the first stage of the putting green project. So the initial stage required the removal of all the sort of root zone and material underneath the putting green that wasn't free draining, that we felt was detrimental to plant health. So we took around 400 mil of topsoil away, and that was sent down to our compost area so that can be reused for projects around the golf course in years to come. So once all that material had been removed, the area was sand capped. So the sand scraper on the left hand side of the third tees was extended, and an estimated figure was around 1,000 tons of sand was transported from the third sand scrape into the new putting green project to raise the levels and lift that putting green away from the water table essentially. So once the sand was spread, you can see in the photo it's sort of half sand, half root zone. 250 mil of root zone was then brought in and mixed 1-to-1 with the sand to produce a growing medium that was required to sustain good turf health. So the final levels were put in, and then the putting green was established through bought in fescue turf. So the original aim was to reinstate the putting green turf from the existing putting green, but we soon found when we were lifting that turf that it wasn't the quality that we needed to produce a good green going forward. So the decision was made to buy turf in, and we're pretty happy with the end result. So there's a long way to go. We've got to reduce the height of the turf on there down to greens height. So I don't really want to put a figure, or should I say a date of the opening of the putting green, but we're definitely working towards opening it, and I would like to think by sort of midsummer we'll be in a position where we can open the putting green, and it'll definitely be a green that everyone can have some fun on. There's lots of areas of sort of undulation on there, and there's also areas of serious sort of flat putting where you can practice your stroke and gain some confidence before you go out on the golf course. Our second project, or should I say yearly sort of winter project, are our bunker renovations. So this year we've completed 12 bunkers out on the golf course. So this is an example of how we sort of redevelop or replenish our revetted bunkers out on the golf course. So this is the left-hand greenside bunker on the 10th hole. So as you can see, lots of the revet has sort of eroded away over the years, and once it gets to this stage, for sort of the aesthetic appeal of the bunker, it's time to sort of rebuild it. So the first stage is we remove all the old revet and strip the turf back. And if I show you the second stage, we create a base, and from that base, that determines the shape of the bunker as the revetted wall goes up. And I'll show you the finished finished article on the 10th green side, which I'm sure you all agree is a vast improvement on the bunker that was there 3 days previously. So we've also been working on our rough edge bunkers, which have been sort of a new feature at Royal Cinque Ports over the last 5 years now. So as you can see, I've split the photo here. So the top photo is the bunker when it went in initially, but this year we've decided to put a revetted wall on the fairway side. So this is the left-hand fairway bunker on the 16th. So we felt like we just wanted to define the edge of the hazard a bit more on the fairway side and give it a sort of cleaner, sharper look. So we've built revetted walls in on the left-hand bunker on the 13th fairway, and we've done the same on the bunker in the picture here on the 16th. We feel that's a real improvement, and it's an improvement that the boys are really sort of proud of. So I'll go on to another sort of topic of discussion in the club at the minute, and that is some of our greens extensions. So we've got some of the biggest greens in the UK, but this winter we've decided to make them a little bigger just so that we can sort of incorporate more sort of interesting pin positions on them. So we've added green space on the front right of the first, the front right of the 8th, the front left of the 9th, so we can tuck a flag in there over the bunker, which I'm sure will please you all when you get to play it with it tucked behind the bunker. Then we've opened up the green on the front right of the 15th, then the front left of the 16th. So the front portion of the 16th green didn't really sort of offer many pin positions, so we felt that opening the front left would allow us to tuck a pin in there and make it quite tough. And then we've opened up the 18th as well, so I'll click through to a photo in a second from 1938 of the the original 18th green, which we're trying to reinstate. So that was reinstated sort of in conjunction with Martin Ebert and what he'd found out for us historically. So the red flags are sort of where the first green will come out to. So you'll see some turfing out on the golf course surrounding some of the greens extensions. So where we used to seed where we do seed ryegrass into the semi-roughs, we didn't want the ryegrass to be in the extended surround cut. So we stripped the ryegrass out and we've replaced that with fescue bent turf, and we've cut the new green out into the existing surround cut, which is fescue bent, so it should perform exactly the same as the rest of the greens on the golf course. And then the sort of detail behind the 18th green extension. So this is a photo from 1938. So as you can see on the right hand side, we've got a second sort of shelf, which used to be, well, up until this point, was cut as surrounds height. And back in 1938, you can see it was cut out as greens. So we've essentially reinstated the green that was there before. So that is the idea behind enlarging the 18th green on the right hand side. So what else has been going on? So we've been very fortunate that the club have invested in upgrading our maintenance facilities. So on the left hand side photo, we have a 72 square metre shed extension. So this is going to house our new canteen room and our new office facilities in there. So that'll be a really, really big upgrade on what we've currently got in the sheds. And then the right hand side photo is a new machinery storage shed. So that's going to be an extra 150 metre squared space to store machinery, because at the moment we've been lucky that the club have invested heavily over a number of years in our machinery fleet, but unfortunately it's been so cramped in there that machines have just had to be parked sort of where we can fit them in. So the new sort of machinery storage shed will allow us to have a designated parking space for each machine, and every machine will be accessible without having to move a machine out in front of it. So it'll allow us to be more efficient, and it'll just be a better working environment for all the greenkeepers. So what have we got coming up? So next Monday and Tuesday, which are the 21st and 22nd of February, we have enlisted the help of Ken Seams at Dryject UK. So dryjecting is a relatively new sort of technique or process in the greenkeeping world, and it directly injects sand into the soil profile. So as I mentioned when I was talking about our greens and how they perform in organic matter, sand and top dressing is essential in the dilution of organic matter and producing firm, fast playing surfaces. So dryjecting works by firing a high pressure water jet, 12 mil diameter water jet, into the soil profile at depths of between 3 to 5 inches, and this high pressure water jet directly inserts top dressing sand into the profile. So we'll be able to target our organic matter at the depths that we require in our soil profile without heavily top dressing the surface, which should obviously disrupt the playing surface less, so it should result in less disruption putting in the weeks afterwards rather than a heavy top dressing. So I've got a couple of photos here of the finish we're expecting to achieve. So that's the finished article on the left hand side. So you can see sort of 12mm diameter holes that are backfilled with straight sand, which will obviously help to dilute organic matter. And then you can see on the right hand photo how the high sort of pressure water jet helps fracture the soil profile. So it'll aerate the soil profile, so the benefits of that are a more oxygenated root zone, so in turn healthier plant roots, better water infiltration, and obviously, as I spoke about earlier, a healthier soil profile results in healthier sort of playing surface and healthier stands of grass. So that's coming up next Monday and Tuesday, and we will follow that up with a overseed on the greens with fescue. Just as soil temperatures increase now, it's an ideal time to get some fescue in the ground and get that germinating before the playing season commences. So I'll take this opportunity now to talk to you about the greenkeeping team and where we're at with the team now. So we're currently a team of 11. We've just appointed a new deputy course manager. So our new deputy course manager, some of you may know him, so it's Lee Campney. So Lee used to work for the club previously in the deputy course manager position. He's an outstanding greenkeeper, an even better individual, a great personality, and someone that has so many brilliant ideas and is absolutely first class with all the other boys in the team. So it's a really exciting sort of appointment for myself and for the club, and it's one that the rest of the greenkeeping team are really looking forward to having Lee on board. So the club have found it quite hard over the last 2 years to recruit qualified greenkeepers. It's no fault of the club at all. It's more to do with, I think, the pandemic and sort of qualified greenkeepers leaving the industry. So it's more of an industry-wide problem. So we've currently got 4 apprentice greenkeepers in the team. So the challenge now really is to upskill the 4 apprentices in the team and get them up to speed on all the tasks on the golf course that we need to do to maintain the golf course successfully and in the condition that we want to sort of achieve and the condition that we want to sort of give to the members. So we've also got another new member of the team, and it's actually the youngest member of the team. So I think one of the biggest things about Bledge leaving was that the 2 dogs left. So Stevie and Susie left a massive hole in the team. So I'd like to introduce Bryn Williams, who's our new youngest member of the team. So Bryn is our new 14-week-old black Labrador, and he's already been out and about on the golf course. He's already running the show, making sure that standards are high and making sure all the lads are doing their job properly. So I'm sure you'll enjoy seeing Bryn out and about on the golf course in the near future. So I'll talk now a little bit about my sort of vision for the course and what we'll hopefully be doing over the next couple of years going forward. So a big part of future plans for the course is building on the sustainability and the sort of future-proofing the management of the golf course. So we've been very fortunate that the club have invested in sort of the construction or the refinement of sand scrapes over the last 4 years. So I'm sure you'll all agree that they look fantastic out on the golf course and really enhance the feel of the links environment, but they're not necessarily there just to look good. So they're an area where we can maintain or sort of produce dune slack habitats for natural England. So they've been sort of planned and constructed in line with Natural England's sort of management plan for the Triple SI site, which obviously Royal Cinque Ports is. So they also offer us an opportunity to mine top dressing sand. So we can use the sand scrapes to take sand to top dress our tees, our fairways, our semi-roughs, and hopefully one day we'll be able to use the sand to top dress our greens with. So in my opinion, they look absolutely fantastic, but they're also there to future-proof the site and to really enhance the sort of ecological value of the site as well. So we've identified areas that we can potentially create bare sort of dune slack sand habitats going forward. So there's an area behind the public footpath on the 14th green that we feel is completely out of play, that we can take sand from with the approval of Natural England. And there's also an area between the left-hand side of the 10th and left-hand side the 11th as well. So another vision for the course moving forward is the bunkering. So the course currently has 72 bunkers, which is a relatively low number for a championship standard links golf course. So it's actually a 38% reduction in the number of bunkers on the course since World War II. So essentially we've lost 38% of our overall bunkers since World War II. So it's a great opportunity to either reinstate or add new bunkers in strategically in positions that are sort of more relevant with modern day sort of club technology and ball technology. With the ball going further now, it's made some of our bunkers at sort of incorrect yardages off the tees. So hopefully we'll look at placing bunkers more strategically to add to the challenge of an already difficult golf course. So I've just got some examples of some aerial photos of bunkers as well that we could potentially look at turning into sort of rough edge bunkers as well. So this is the right hand side bunker on the second. So there's the potential here to create a high sand face, but then build a revetted wall on the left hand side, on the fairway side, just to make sure that we've got a clearly defined edge to the hazard on the fairway side as well. And then the left-hand side fairway bunker on the 11th is also a candidate to be transitioned into a sort of rough edge style. So the rough edge style is far less labour intensive. So I can give you an example of the 11th bunker. The 11th bunker, the last time it was built, took 5 days to complete. And with 3 trailer loads of turf. So essentially it's 5 days of 3 greenkeepers' time to build the revetted bunker, whereas if this was a rough edge bunker, the frequency of maintenance is reduced drastically because there's no need to burn the face off, there's no need to rebuild the bunker every 3 to 5 years. And rough edge bunkers mature over time and in my opinion, develop sort of into a more aesthetically appealing bunker in time. So my sort of not my last vision, but my sort of a further vision for the course is the further refinement of playing surfaces. So the club have achieved so much now in the last decade in terms of improving its playing surfaces that we need to continue it. We want to have the best playing surfaces possible for the membership and for visitors, and then hopefully for potential tournaments in the future. So how are we going to do this? So all the management practices we undertake on the golf course are driven by data. So what do I mean by data? So the top left photo is a cleg hammer, so that measures the firmness of the greens. So we can alter our aeration practices or our irrigation practices depending on how hard or how soft our greens are, or whether we need to top dress more or top dress less. The right hand side top photo is a stimp meter, so we use a stimp meter to obviously determine the pace of the greens, but then we can alter our sort of height of cut and our growth regulation applications dependent on our stimp meter readings. The bottom left hand photo is relatively new technology, so it's GPS technology, and we map all of our greens and it produces accurate moisture maps for us, so then we can target watering at areas on the greens that require it. Rather than watering the whole green, we just water the segments that need it, and that allows us to save water. And then the bottom right photo that I'm actually covering with my face is our RNA sort of organic matter performance results. So when we place the results into graphs, we can see a clear trend, hopefully a downward trend in organic matter percentages. So we use data to drive our management practices to ensure, rather than just guesswork or sort of historic sort of feeling for the site, we can use data to make accurate, informed decisions. And how can we continue to refine the surfaces? Well, the greenkeeping world has got far less sort of chemicals and fertilizers in its armory than it ever has done now, not thanks to, but because of EU legislation and looking to protect the environment. And that's something that as a greenkeeping team, we're looking to enhance the environment and sort of maintain our favourable status in terms of land management. So how can we do that? Well, we need to continue our cultural management approach. So we need to aerate frequently. That I described the benefits of aeration earlier in terms of increased infiltration, increased rooting capacity. So the healthier the soils, the healthier the pattern surfaces. We need to top dress frequently. Obviously, I described earlier the need to control organic matter. So top dressing, although it does impact playability, in the long run it will improve the pattern surfaces. We need to measure our nutrition. So we don't want greens that are overfed, and we don't want greens that are underfed. So we do this by using soil analysis and sort of putting together a fertilizer program that meets the needs of the greens. We need to measure our irrigation. So as I described in the moisture sort of management maps, we need to continue doing this. And if we can ensure we don't overwater greens, we'll promote the finer grasses, bent and fescue, that thrive in slightly drier, sandier soils. And then we also need to ensure that we're cutting at the appropriate cutting heights. So we need to manage the greens in terms of cutting heights. If we cut too low, we'll place additional stress on the grass plant, and that's obviously detrimental to plant health. If we cut too high, we don't produce the green speeds and the sort of performance that are required for play on a day-to-day basis. So it's all a balancing act, but if we can get these 5 key points all right, we'll produce good playing surfaces and be able to refine the playing surfaces even more going forward. So that is the end of my presentation, but I've just put up here my Twitter handle, my email address, and then the link to the Royal Cinque Ports Greenkeepers WordPress blog. So please feel free to get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you've got on the golf course, and thank you very much for listening.